Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World, the tactical review, as we look at last night's League Cup final, Celtic versus St Mirren. Unfortunately, St Mirren running away winners, 3-1, lifting the League Cup. Before we dissect the game and obviously current state of affairs with what's happening with Celtic at the moment, quick catch up with you, Paul. Joined as always with Paul Massey. Paul, how was your weekend up until 11:30 last night?
Pretty good. And then it was not. Decent weekend, quite quiet. Just spent some time with some colleagues on Friday night, sort of last little drinks before Christmas, etc. And then a bit of a date day lunch with my wife on Saturday, which was nice. And then quite quiet. It was really hot here, right? So, unpleasantly hot. And then we had a pretty much a hefty storm blow through yesterday. A ton of rain in nearly no time. So yesterday was a day for hiding out until it was time for the game. So and the weekend went downhill rapidly from 11:30 p.m. till about 1:30 a.m. this morning. So those are a couple, 2 or 3 hours, 2.5 hours that I've preferred to probably skip and stay in bed. But that's not what we do as Celtic fans, and especially not when we're doing this the next day or the same day by the time we are getting to bed.
Part of me foolishly thought that early second half may have had extra time written all over it. Yeah, got a wee bit carried away with myself there, but anyway, we'll get into that side. I caught with my parents on the weekend, so it was nice to see them down in Fremantle. There's so much for sea breeze. It was dead still, and it was like 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and it was still like 32 degrees. It was just very, very hot, and you could tell a thunderstorm was coming. Had a wee bit of mixed in with my wife on Sunday, but otherwise working like a dog at the moment. Obviously watched the Storchers get a good win in rain-affected conditions, and obviously some very horrendous stuff happening over in Bondi and Sydney. So our thoughts are with everyone affected by that, and hopefully, like I said, everyone recovers. A very, very nasty thing. Paul, lots of comments. I'm just trying to bring some up quickly before we get into it, because people were champing at the bit. I think we were a minute or two late coming on, and there's about 10 comments already. So McLaughlin P has said that he's seen under 13 teams better organised. Yes, we're going to try and figure out exactly what our tactics were. My old man straight in about the first goal. So we'll have a wee chat about defending, because that's the third corner in the space of a week that we've conceded. Third goal from a corner, I should say. Peter Mullen saying, what's next? Yeah, well, that's a very good question. And then, just sort of saying that the belief that O'Neill has instilled has dissipated in the space of a week. And then obviously I was touching on this as I was listening to this on the way home from work tonight, but had he been asked, Martin O'Neill would have stayed on longer. So yes, questions abound. I think we don't want to hear from Craig McLean. The comments are flying in thick and fast. If you pair can work out your tactics, you're better than me. Well, I have to say that's probably a good place to start, Paul, because you and I were sort of sending random formations backwards and forwards to one another in the group chat last night for the first 5-10 minutes, trying to get a bit of a feel for what was going on, because you're gone in the days of it being 4-3-3 and you could set your watch to it. Those days have gone. Probably go back to team lines. Benjamin Negron dropping out the side. I'll bring up the team list now, actually. No real shock there, I guess. That was kind of the mood music sort of. And he had a bit of a stinker against Roma. I don't think he played particularly well against Hearts either. And obviously, Wilfred Nancy going with the same team 2 games out. So that was one of the changes. And then the other change was to bring in Anthony Ralston, right-sided centre-back, to try and balance out the 3 left-sided centre-halves that we've had play in the first 2 games. Tierney pushing out to the left-hand wing-back role, Maeda pushing into an inside 10 role, and Iheanacho starting up front after a lively display in the second half against Roma, despite it being against a 3-0 deficit. I think I got all that out, Paul. It made sense. I didn't have much of a run up to the game because I'd sort of tried to catch a couple of hours sleep, so I could actually sort of focus on this. So I sort of woke up bang on 5 minutes before kickoff, so I was a wee bit sort of getting my head around it all as the game kicked off. But what was your initial thoughts? And obviously, like you say, we were trying to figure it out early doors.
Yeah, so as is the case with these later kickoffs or odd kickoff times for us locally, I'd got my head down for an hour and a half and managed to get a little bit of kip beforehand. So yeah, I alarmed my set 10 minutes before kickoff. By the time I got logged into Celtic TV, it was like 5 minutes before kickoff. So I was only getting to the team lines that close to kickoff. And on a quick look at the team lines, you think, oh, maybe we're going to a back four. You've got Ralston and Tierney there. And you think, well, having gone with the same team twice in a row and failed, pretty terribly, maybe there's a bit of pragmatism coming in and we're going to back four and trying to get the players back to something that's a bit more functional. Clearly, the second the teams broke from the huddle and set themselves up on the pitch, it wasn't going to be a back four. It was definitely going to be a back three. And after that, it was really just trying to work out the shape across the middle and the front. And in the end, despite it looking like it might be a front two for a bit, with Maeda and Iniacho up there, it turned out that it was really no difference to the shape previously. It was effectively a 3-4-3 for want of a better style. And yeah, I just think we've got. We just not got the players ideally to to this system, or at least not how they're being asked to play. I think Tenekti isn't a wing back. Let's make that abundantly clear. Tierney on the other side did the job well and can defend as well as he can attack. Tenekti doesn't really have a defensive bone in his body. I actually quite like the fact he went with a naturally right-footed player in that position, because, call me old-fashioned, but I quite like my widest players to get to the byline and put a ball across, whether it's a cutback or a cross, with the foot that they're supposed to kick with. I quite like that. That worked for decades, and I don't see why we had to change it. And look, at that point in the first half when we were sort of flying, he got to the byline a few times and put some dangerous balls in, but he was all at sea defensively. We were so lopsided that everything of any meaningful sort of output came down our left. And then at halftime, Robinson sort of dealt with that and sort of did a quick tactical shift, stifled our left side, meaning basically we had no attacking output. And that, coupled with Iniacho getting injured, was pretty much us done for.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think what appears to be the case with Wilfred Nancy's system is that it requires a centre forward to play as a true centre forward, somebody who's willing to drop a bit deeper, pick the ball up, have very strong link-up play, willing to take a tackle, but able to sort of, do a half turn, bring your wing backs into the game, or your inside sort of elevated midfielders. So Iniacho definitely demonstrated that against Roma on Thursday night. So I certainly thought he would start. Unfortunately, the sheer fact that the man's not played much football because he's warm benches and been very injury prone, he breaks down. What was it, about half an hour into the game? I think it was roughly a bit there.
33 minutes, I think. That was pretty much.
And the replacement in Johnny Keddy, unfortunately, that lad could play for another 180 minutes and still struggle to get a couple of touches on the ball, let alone get in a position to score a goal. So we're in sort of dire straits squad-wise. And unfortunately, I feel that the system that our new manager is trying to impose on this players in the space of a week is just highlighting and emphasizing the lack of depth and the lack of quality in the players themselves. So, one of the things I remember him saying in one of his interviews is that he wants players to be able to play two positions. Liam Stales has had 3 terrible games in a row. And Paul will always be very quick to jump on Liam Stales' back, and I've been giving him the benefit of the doubt this season. But he has been one of the prime examples of how this system is killing us. I attribute a lot of Liam Stales' positive performances this season to having either Kieran Tierney or Srirachi beside him, so having a competent left back. And he looked better, like I said, obviously with CCV or Trusty beside him on the right side. So that sort of deep defending, clearing headers, very good at it, strong at it, which is why he usually always tends to put in decent performances against Rangers, because usually there's parts of the game where it's back to the wall stuff and you're defending deep, and he's good at that. This system with a back three calls for him to not have that fullback to cover him, so he's exposed. So there was one instance where he totally made an absolute meal of it, and they got in behind us, and then it became a running race to the goals. You play with a back three, so you generally need your back three to be quick. I'd say Austin Trusty is quick. I wouldn't say Liam Stales and Anthony Ralston are quick. And ultimately, Liam Stales is then being asked to not only play the left side of a back three, but also to almost become an auxiliary left wing back winger, and was in positions where he was having to play the $64,000 ball into the box to try and unlock a defense. And it's like, I think you're just asking a wee bit too much. Like, everyone goes on, it's about confidence, but like you've got to read the room. Like, you've got to say, well, the guy's a stopper. Play him as a stopper, but he's trying to play him like he's Paolo Maldini, and it's like, it's just not going to happen. And he might get a wee bit better at it, but you're wondering why we're at 6s and 7s, and we've conceded 3 goals from corners. We've conceded 2 goals. A goal against Roma first 5 minutes. We conceded in the first play of the game against St Mirren on the weekend. Last night. It's just I feel it's like a microcosm. It's one example. There's examples all over the park. Like, playing Tinecti on the right for the first time ever all season. He's played on the left exclusively all season, and all of a sudden he's been asked to play right wing back. And then, not to mention the raft of substitutions in the second half, where you had players all over the place playing in positions they've never played before, expecting there to be some miraculous result. It was just never going to happen. And for me, that's a real concern. The manager talks about being humble, but you kind of feel that there's a bit of hubris here in the fact that he's come in and went, we're doing it my way. He sort of said between Roma and the cup final that, I've pared it back a bit and I'm not going full bung. But how much more could you go? Like, it's just that it's a real concern. And just one last thing I'll say is that Michael Stewart, he touched on it. He said this Celtic formation just seems to be all systems go. Like, you have a license just to bomb on. He says, bugger it. If there's only 2 at the back, or it's 1-on-1 or whatever it is, he says, like, there doesn't seem to be any accountability. It's just like all push forward. And I mean, I don't watch any of the MLS. I don't know whether that's like the rush football tactics and that works over there, but it certainly didn't work against St Mirren, because they had a number. They're a counter-attacking team. I'll bring up the stats at some point, but basically St Mirren had 24% of the possession, but just as many shots on goal as us. Just the actual critical stats where you win games, their stats were as good as ours, with a quarter of the possession. So, like, you can play all this expansive football and hold on to the ball and do whatever you want with it, but ultimately goals win matches and chances win matches, and they had the better chances than us. We don't usually sum up the game early doors list. We usually sort of go blow by blow, but we kind of feel like being a cup final, it's an all or nothing phenomena. And given we've had 3 losses in a week, we kind of feel that it all sort of bleeds in together. And I struggled to find a single positive comment online last night, today, in any form of social media. But, I don't want to be too despondent, but at the same time, like, you look for shoots of hope. And as you say, Paul, come back to the start, they kind of withered when Iheanacho, came off with a hamstring injury, which is that's going to be him for another 8 weeks, you would think.
Well, yeah. Look, so I'll address Scales now because, yeah, I'm seem to have been badged across the channel as a Scales hater, which I'm not. I have just long bemoaned the fact that he is not a Celtic centre back. Is it not of the class as a centre back should be? I don't mind him being an interchange, a sub, a third or fourth choice in a back two, and he is functional for set things that you've covered. He's good in the air usually, and he can get a block in here and there. But you're right. His deficiencies have been covered by good quality players around him, particularly outside him at left back. When he was in the centre for the first 2 games in this experiment, we'll call it, he was all at sea because the central man needs to run the line and sort of work out who, or take the line, basically be the person that controls the back three in terms of stepping up, offside, etc. He was all at sea there. He was regularly two or three feet deeper than his 2 teammates. I jokingly said he played the onside trap, I think, in the game against Roma. And then when he was shifted to the left centre back, well, at least that's him a bit out of the way, and you don't have to have him running the show. As soon as I've said before, if you turn him or get the ball over the top, he's in trouble. And you're right, he was all at sea a couple of times, lost a physical battle, which he shouldn't do. That's supposed to be his key strengths, is physicality, and he lost it and got turned. And he just looks like a player utterly bereft of confidence. Now, it's a very low bar, but I would not disagree with the comments that have been around saying that he was probably a candidate for Celtic Player of the Season. As I say, low bar prior to Nancy coming in. Now he looks like he's terrified of the ball, of anything. He looks like a man utterly with confidence shot. You say he had to be an auxiliary winger. That was the best of his play. He whipped in some great crosses. Iheanacho had a great header he should have probably scored from. Keeper pulls out a phenomenal save. I know Gav was on the show, the earlier show, saying it was savable. And I guess it is savable because the keeper saves it. But it's a phenomenal diving save low down to his left. And he tips it away and pushes it to safety. But yeah, like in this system, the centre-backs are asked to be ball players, to be the start of attacks. How many times and we've seen this a lot with Scales, like how many times when he's crossing it from wide areas, he looks actually quite good. When he's asked to play forward passes under relatively minimal pressure, he quite often just passes it straight out of the pitch. And there was another classic yesterday. Tierney was bombing down the left in the second half in a really good position, and he's just got to slide it into his path, and he hit it so hard that it finished up by it was bouncing off the sponsors boards behind the pitch. Like it, and he scores the own goal from the corner. He loses Ferguson for one of the goals against Roma as well. I think he's culpable for 2 at least here. Now St Mirren worked us well in the set piece. I don't know if you want to start using some of the
Let's bring it up. Yeah, we're bringing it up. Yeah.
So the opening goal, the guys had a crack at, if we get a wee bit bigger, the guys had a crack at Scales' position in here and Trusty's position in here, which on the face of it, on the still is a valid query, right? The ball's right on the 6-yard box, and our 2 centre backs, who are the best headers of the ball on the team, are out past the penalty spot. But I think what St Mirren have done well here is they've dragged the centre backs out to this position by the biggest players and the main threats are out here. So you can't see him in shot, but Gogic is on the edge of the penalty box, and that's who Scales is keeping an eye on. And I'm not quite sure who that is with Trusty, but I think it might be one of the big centre backs. So they've they've taken up threats, and that's fine. But what Mirren have done is they've dragged those two centre backs to the edge of the box, and then planned to play the ball into the dangerous area. Now, my big question here is, why is Hatate picking up another centre back in Marcus Fraser? It doesn't make any sense. Hatate is hopeless with his head at the best of times. You certainly don't want to be the man bang in the middle of the 6-yard box attacking that most dangerous area if the ball comes in there. You've got, I think, Iheanacho, Engels, and I think that's Greg.
And Iheanacho got dragged out. So he started roughly where Hatate and the Dijkstra's goal is. So he's been dragged out of the area. So again, he's a strong header of the ball. He's been dragged out. They've done it deliberately to try and isolate some of our weaker aerial players, and it's been a good delivery. It's still a good header. I mean, like, you can you still have to finish it, but a free header, you're like 7 yards out. If you're going to get a free header 7 yards out, you're probably going to get it on target at the very least. If not, you're going to score. And Schmeichel's not saving that.
So there's Gogic there, which proves my point in terms of who Scales was looking at. It's a really good header. Like, he gets a real break by it flicking the inside of the post, and you're not going to save that. But the delivery's good, and their movement is good. Like, I think one of the things it's very different between how they set up attacking corner and how we set up is that level of movement. They've got players on the move constantly. If you go back to the first slide, you've got Phillips. I think he starts at the front post. Yeah, one back. Yeah. Phillips starts at the front post, and he's and you see him running away from goal. Like, so he started up near the front post and he's pulled himself round in a whip. So that's sort of throwing players as well. I assume Maeda's probably supposed to be with him, but he's obviously caught ball watching, and by that point there's lots of space. The ball's come through that channel. We're just very static when we put the ball in. We put our biggest guys on the edge of the 6-yard box and hope somebody flicks it on and somebody else can come and get back. It's just pretty poor, and it doesn't work very often. So yeah, I think fair play to St Mirren. They've run this well, but we are now getting caught out on corners on a regular basis. That's, like you say, it's one in each game in the last 3, and I don't think we lost one to a set piece under O'Neill, or maybe 1 or 2 in 8 games. So very minimal, given it's an area of weakness, and now a huge area of weakness again. And I just think, both from set pieces and open play, we're all over the place. And it's hard where to throw the most blame, because there's so much of it to go around. I think you've got to start with the board. At the end of the day, if it's almost inconceivable where we are compared to where we were when we took Bayern Munich to the wire 10 months ago. So in the space of 10 months, we've gone from that to this absolute calamity. And every decision that's taken us there is down to the board. So they sell our best players in Kyogo and Kuhn and others and don't replace them. They don't back the manager in the summer. They leave us short going into a crunch Champions League qualifier that will make us a minimum of 40 million quid. And we failed to get through that. They start a whispering campaign behind the manager's back and sort of work towards his position being untenable. And they throw far too much money at guys who probably shouldn't even be allowed to pull the Celtic shirt over their head late in the window as some sort of cover-up. Most of who barely play since they signed. And then, as I say, the players that get caught in this, they pick fights with fan base and refuse to accept any responsibility for where we are. And nothing to see here. It's all going great. The players get caught in a crossfire between the manager and the board and eventually stop playing for him. And the one thing that they've done well is they dragged Martin O'Neill out of retirement to steady the ship, which he did splendidly and above and beyond expectations, and got some confidence back in the team and the players. It wasn't spectacular, but it was functional, and it got results, and it got us right back in the mix, both in Europe and in the league. and then they dilly-dally over a hiring process for a guy who it looks like was the only ever candidate. So what a surprise. They've not conducted a thorough search. They've got the football doctors can book of mates from Exeter City and going, oh, I know him. He's in the MLS. He's an assistant manager. We'll see if his mate's interested. It's just, you would see if somebody told you the story and you didn't live it for the last 10 months, you wouldn't believe it. It's so fanciful that a club as big as us, with the reserves we've got, I don't usually swear on the show, could fuck it up so absolutely monumentally as we've got to. You just wouldn't believe it. But we've all seen it with our own eyes. And the board are absolutely responsible for every single decision that has taken us here. And I agree, they will double down. Nancy's already doubled down 3 times in a week. He's going to continue to play a style that we're neither have the players for, are we suited for, or I think that the players believe in or are buying in. It sounds ridiculous to say, but I think he's maybe lost part of the dressing room already. 3 games in, you think, well, how could that be? They look bereft of confidence. They look utterly confused. Some of them are absolutely ignoring the manager, to be honest. Like, he's waving his arms and trying to attract attention and trying to direct them to take interest in what he wants to tell them, and they're basically patching him. And some of them look visibly pissed off post-match and during. The only thing that's going to restore confidence is winning matches. And I don't see us winning matches particularly easily from here. We've got a squad that isn't fit to play this, that's on the last legs of injuries, overwork. And the injuries it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're on a threadbare squad. We're going to go asking the same players to go back to the well. Obviously, they're going to get muscle injuries. That's where all the hamstring stuff is coming from. We're desperate to get players back, so they get rushed, have another injury. It's just we're just asking for trouble. Like, my brother messaged me this morning and said, I haven't said much since Roma. What's your thoughts on last night? And I said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And that's where we're at. The manager I don't think he even knows which players he should be playing in his system. He's just trialing and error in it. And as people who have watched this squad and the club over years, I reckon if you insist on playing 3-4-3, I reckon me and you and the guys in the comments could put a better 3-4-3 on the pitch than he's currently doing. Even just in terms of personnel, never mind how he's asking them to play. That's how bad it's got.
Martin O'Neill did an interview. He's back on TalkSport as of today, so he did a bit of a 10-minute preamble with Jim White and Simon, whatever his face is, Jordan. And there was 2 things that came out of it. One was, have he been asked to stay to the end of the season? He would have. Second thing is, he was asked by presumably Dermot, but by the Celtic hierarchy, to meet Wilfred Nancy and have a meeting. He had a 15-minute conversation with Wilfred the day after the Dundee game, and that was it. 15 minutes. That is the sum total of the handover from the caretaker manager, who has just got 7 out of 8 wins, who knows the club inside out because he's been there twice, who understands Scottish football, who, have a bit of a feeling for some of the players, having worked with them for, how long was Martin in the door? What, 6 weeks? As long as that? Was it even as long as that? It was 8 games, but I don't know how many weeks that was.
5.5, 6 weeks.
5 and 6 weeks. So, he just sussed out a few of the characters in the thing. But here's the thing, right? The sounds of things with a 15-minute conversation. So you've literally got the new manager basically starting from day one, which was 2 days before we play Hearts, which is a top-of-the-table clash. So it's not like a month before your first fixture. It's not 2 weeks before the start of the season. It's 2 days before the next game. And then he has gone in just new formation, playing players in positions that they're not familiar with, and basically telling players, you're now a wing back. Case in point, Luke McCowan. What on any viewing of his performances would you say that he would make a left wing back? I mean, it just beggars belief. And these sorts of decisions are the things that give me the fear, because you're sort of saying it's like someone playing a game of Football Manager and just shoehorning players into positions just because like you're trying to play some sort of Moneyball thing rather than actually watching what's in front of you. So looking at statistics rather than actually looking at what's in front of you and actually saying, he can't defend for the life of himself. How can he be a wing back? And this is the thing, like there's certain characteristics that surely are an innate to play in the system he wants to play, i.e. centre halves that need to be quick, fullbacks or wing backs that can defend. It's been proven time and time again that your best wing backs are always going to be players who can defend first, have a good engine, and can get forward. So the only two that are currently fit in the Celtic squad at the moment that I think could play proper wing back positions is Kieran Tierney on the left and Colby Donovan on the right. That's it. Yang, Tanekti, I can look McCowan, James Forrest. You're kidding yourself on. Like, if you want to deploy them as a winger, fucking play them as a winger. But to turn around and say, "Oh, you're now a wing back," I mean, it's just a nonsense. It really is a nonsense. It's just ridiculous. And as Celtic fans, we're sitting here watching this, going like, he can't be serious. And this is what he's doing. And he, as you say, Paul, he's done it 3 games in a row. He had an opportunity yesterday to tone it down a bit and revert a little bit back towards what we're used to, just to give everyone a bit of a breather and a bit of a chance. But he's not going to get too many more chances. Like, we're at Dundee United during the week, away from home. That's our catch-up game. So that's our game against Hearts to catch up and go level on points again. So effectively, you'd say a must-win game. We then have Aberdeen at home on the weekend. I'm pretty sure we're at home. Pretty sure we are.
Yeah.
And then after that, we've got Motherwell, and we've got another game as well.
Motherwell, Livingston, and then Rangers.
Sorry, we got Livingston. Yeah, we got Livingston, and then we got Motherwell. So like Livingston at home, Motherwell away, and then we've got the Huns. That's our next 5 games. And at the moment, if I had $100 to bet, I honestly couldn't say that I'd be willing to put money on Celtic winning the majority of those games.
You wouldn't get me putting $100 on them winning any of those games, guaranteeing any of those games. Like, might pick up a draw. Like, honestly, I think the problem is he's not going to get sacked, right? He's not going to get sacked immediately because that would mean some sort of culpability on the board, and even as daft as they are, some of that culpability would have to roll up to some decision makers further up the food chain. The only reason I could see him getting emptied early is ultimately what happens is the whim of Dermot Desmond, right? So he's allowed it, presumably in some sort of pitch to win the job. He explained that he was going to rip up the tactics and start from scratch. At which point, presumably, somebody said to him, "Well, we're not 100% sure we've got the squad for that, but we'll invest in January." You know. Anyway, whatever's. I don't suppose he told them, "I'll leave it as is," and then came in the door and went, "Yeah, we'll change it completely." Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if he'd come in with a full preseason, you would say you've got a chance of turning that around. You've got weeks on the training pitch. You've got time to play bounce games. You've got time to actually work with players and work out who's best for that and buy new players. Like, don't get me wrong, I've got some sympathy for Wilfried Nancy. I have. The sympathy I've got for him, but it begins in it. Like, he's rapidly losing my sympathy in only 3 games. But I have sympathy for him because this is about as hard a time that you could ever take the Celtic job. It just is. Like, with all the stuff I highlighted earlier and everything that everybody knows, and then to land them on those 3 matches, it's just utter lunacy. And it's, again, the way this hierarchy run us is just a shambles. They've prioritized saving a few bob on the release clause over getting him in the door early to try and bed in sooner, or just going, well, if we're waiting, maybe we wait and give the guy who's doing well a run at the 3 hardest matches of the season in the same week, and then maybe we bring him in. Just everything about it is slapdash and amateurish. But again, this is exactly what you come to expect to this board. But the only thing I can say, like the point I was going to make is if Desmond eventually has enough, and that might be if we lose the next 5 in a row, is that enough for the principal shareholder to go, this is a fucking bad mistake, we need to do something about it? I don't know. But
there'll be a riot. There'll be a riot, Paul. There'll be nobody in Celtic Park. It'll be a ghost town. There's no way you're going to have people turning up if we lose the next three games in a row. We're like 6 games without a win. Like, it's just...
Well, if we don't... Well, I don't think it's even 2 or 3 games. If we don't win against United on Wednesday, which I don't know many Celtic fans that fancy us there, if we don't win that match, I think you're looking at a half-empty Celtic Park against Aberdeen at home. Because that fixture right before Christmas is notoriously one that gets a lower crowd anyway, because people are doing stuff in the immediate run up to Christmas, last minute shopping, stuff with families, blah, 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 works event, all of that. And some people just can't get along. Travel, obviously weather's shocking, etc. So that last game before Christmas at home quite often has a slightly lower turnout than usual. If we lose 4 on the trot, people will use it as an opportunity to vote with their feet and make an actual. They might go and protest in front of the ground. I don't think they'll go in. A lot of them won't go in. And can you blame them? I don't know. Could you, if you were still had a season ticket, you'd be. I think I'd be on the cusp of going. Am I still showing up for this? Because
I think you're feeling
the only thing they'll understand is
you're feeling shortchanged. Because of the signings, the lack of signings in the summer, the 100 million in the bank, just sitting there gathering dust, paying tax on it, whatever you want to call it. But if Wilfred Nancy, I mean, if he does get sacked, then surely Paul Tisdale has to be sacked as well, because he was the primary conduit for recruiting him in the first place. And surely, as part of your due diligence, you've got to look at it and say, well, this guy's ready to come in. He has a philosophy of completely changing how we're going to play. Celtic normally plays a 4-3-3. He's going to play a different system. Like, how's that going to work in the middle of a season? Like, maybe it's an appointment we should wait for until the start of a new season. Like, just where's the risk management? That's what gets me. Is it's just like, oh, he talks a good game. He'll be all right. Let's just get him in there and see how he goes. That's pretty much the feeling of the recruitment process. And as you say, Paul, how many resumes were sitting in the drawer? Like, it's the same old story. And I said to my brother today, because I had a bit of a chat to my brother about this morning, and I sort of say this is about 5 years in the making. This situation that we're currently in, and the board sidestepped it 5 years ago by appointing Ange Postecoglou. Well, but 5 years, it was 5 years ago, wasn't it? Like 2, 3, whatever it was, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it was, right? Because we were in an absolute state. We were that close to all just going to shit. Ange came in. It was a bumpy first 3 or 4 games, and then he got it going and managed to turn it around. And it was his sheer force of will and recruitment from Japan that sort of got us going again. But what's happening now could have happened then. And the board looked at by bringing Ange in. They've gone for another Hail Mary with Wilfred Nancy. And the difference between Wilfred and Ange is that Ange had 20 years experience coaching at various levels, international level, different leagues, different countries, but successful everywhere he went. Won the Asian Cup with Australia, won the J-League, won the A-League, won everywhere he went. Wilfred Nancy's had some success, interspersed with some very, very patchy results. And here we are. And not like when you read body language, his number 2, I can't remember the gentleman's name, he just seems to sit there with his face absolutely tripping him the whole time. And it's just like, if he's the guy who motivates the team when Nancy's not there, it's just like, no wonder the team's a little bit sort of, feeling you've gone from Martin O'Neill and fathering him to that. It shouldn't be about language barriers and what have you, but ultimately part of the gig is about man management and motivation. And I just wonder how much motivation they're actually getting, because it just, it just looks a bit painful at times. And I'll finish with this point, Paul, before we actually talk about our goal, because we need to actually talk about some of the incidents in the game. Is that where's Callum McGregor? Because normally when the team's under fire and we're not playing well, Callum McGregor will front the media. He will be out there with his flak jacket on, and he will bat away criticism. He'll wear it on the chin. He'll take it for the team. But on Thursday night, it was Arnie Engels who was in the firing line. Last night, it was Scales and Trusty who were getting interviewed, and Callum McGregor was nowhere to be seen. So that, to me, speaks volumes. That's a sign that he's maybe no buying in with this, and he's upset, because if he fully believed in this and was backing the manager and backing the team, he'd be out there, but he's not. So I'm just thinking something's not right there either.
Well, if you believe the rumours, then that he's absolutely unhappy with what's going on. He was after the Roma game. I think he was again the other night. There's other rumours about bust-ups and disgruntlements in the dressing room, and you just have to look at players' body language. And like there's a couple of things I went to sort of flag. Like we can maybe touch on instance, but there's 2 or 3 like pockets of things I want to mention. So like there's about 20-25 minutes where we play some really good stuff. After their goal, we get going and we play some really good stuff, and we look a completely different team. And we have got them on the back foot, and we're creating chances, and we should have scored more than one. To your point earlier, Iheanacho's the focal point in all of that. He's holding the ball up, he's dropping deep, he's linking the play. I love his attitude on the pitch. He's positive, he's getting in other players' faces, he's trying to like pump up the enthusiasm and the intensity, but he's bringing other players into the game. And we should have scored. We should have, like, his header, that was a brilliant save. He has another one that he's a bit unlucky with. Maeda has one he flashes across the goal. He should probably do better with. There's one that's kind of scrambled into the box from a cutback, and Hatate should probably be braver and bust a gut and try and go through it. And that's possibly a chance. The goal is class. But in that period, we had the opportunity to take the game away from them. And yeah, they'd have come back. But once you get up in a cup final, you hopefully have the confidence to get in. The other thing to say here, Paul, is that they should have been 2-0 up, because they had an absolute glaring chance about 10 minutes in. I don't know how the boy missed it. The only thing was the fact that he was probably past the post, and I think that's a half chance at best. If he scores from there, that's a brilliant finish. He's beyond the front post and the ball's behind him, and yeah, he drags it past the post. But I think Mahesh is the stats man. He'll probably tell you the XG on that chance. But for me, the concern was how easily they cut through us to get the square ball, because that was, and I heard some of the guys on the earlier show saying Hatate had a good game in this, seriously, first half, and this goal topped it off. This goal was really the first decent thing he did in the first half, because he's nowhere at the corner for the opener, and then he lets his man run off him for that chance. Like he just lets the runner go, and he gets the byline and whips it across. But he redeems himself here. This is an absolutely brilliant finish. It's a great delivery from KT, and KT and Scales put quality crosses in all first half, and then they shut down the left side, and Kieran Tierney, I presume, was carrying an knock or fatigue and had to go off. But yeah, this is really well controlled. Like, you think of some of the chances they had. Like Hatate hit the bar against Hearts with right in front of the goal.
Yeah,
like literally right in front of the 6-yard box, and he managed to hit the bar. He quite often is not the most composed in front of goal. This is a brilliant finish. Inside of the foot, controlled volley. Keeper has no chance, and the keeper played really well. St Mirren played really well. Did well. Yeah. But this is a great finish. And really, our tails were up at this point, and we should have pressed home the advantage. And then Iheanacho gets injured, and really everything goes up in smoke, because to your point, we've got no focal point. Maeda can't hold the ball up. He was tripping over it, falling over, tumbling about. Johnny Kenny, I'm not sure how many times he even touched the ball the whole time he was on. So we just lost our way entirely second half. We didn't get the ball forward. We didn't get bodies into the box. If we look at St Mirren's second goal,
yeah, Just give me 2 seconds, Paul. I'll bring it up. But this is like the moment, the Ralph Wiggum moment where like you feel his heart breaking. It's just like his hamstring snapping in slow motion. It's just like, and every Celtic fan around the world just going, oh, like it's simultaneously. Like as soon as he did it, everyone knew. It was like, oh no. Bear with me just a second. I'll bring up the second half, the goal from the second half. 2 seconds. Here we go. I won't up many images of this one, but we'll see how we go.
Oh, what I was going to say is it just shows the difference between their attacking intent second half and ours, right? And as you said, we had way more of the ball, but they used it better. When Gogic gets the ball on the edge of the box, by the time he flicks it into the air, I think there's 6 St Mirren players in the box.
Yep.
2, 4, 6. And we've got enough there back to deal with it, but we're all over the shop. Once again, Trusty and Scales are playing the onside trap. Like they've stepped up, but not been aware of who else is there. Schmeichel is left in no man's land. He's either got to stay back and try and save it, or if he's coming, he's got to get the ball and a bit of everything. Like he's got to make it. He can't come that far and not get to the ball. Like he just can't. So plenty of blame to go around. No pressure on Gogic on the edge of the box. We've lost the ball to even allow them to get to that point. And then we're letting players drift in behind and no awareness of offside. So for both these goals, I'm thinking they've got to be offside. How are they not offside? But no, we're just playing the onside trap, drifting about, no control. And yeah, they were well drilled, as they always are. They stuck to the game plan, and they took their chances when they came. And everything we are not, right? Their team is a fraction, cost a fraction of the budget that ours was put together for. On the face of it, in theory, none of their players should get in our squad or on the bench. And they played us off the park. Like they rope-a-doped us. Like this stuff's bad, but with 20 minutes to go, for their third goal, 20 minutes to go, we've got no players in our own half. Oh, sorry, we've got Kasper Schmeichel in our own half when they undo us with one ball over the top. Now, if that's into the last minute of injury time, and we're a goal down, we're chasing a goal to take us to extra time and keep us in the cup final, I'll accept it. This early in the match, so the player in the middle, who I think might be Trusty, he's in our half when this ball's played. Everyone else, look, you can see where they are.
Stales.
Engels has literally just picked. Engels is the one in the mid between them. He's literally just dragged himself up off the ground. Like he got clattered and the ref said play on. And he only just picks himself up and he's limping. And then the ball gets played over the top and he's going, well, I'm going to have to go. And so he's only half fit trying to run back. But here, Scales is not flat out. He's jogging or running, but not sprinting. And I caught ball watching as well, because all he has to do is glance over to where he should be. Let's be honest, that's where the left centre back should be. And there's the danger. And if he gets himself back, he can put some pressure. He can make a decision. He can leave the player on the ball. I think it's Declan John. He can make him have to decide whether he shoots himself or cuts it back or tries to play a more difficult pass if Scales gets back, but he doesn't. He just allows him a simple pass. Again, I thought, how's he onside? And he was. And then, there's a late chance Michael does well. The one thing that's missing here is Kobe Donovan had a wonderful strike on 82 minutes.
Yeah.
And Jamal George made another brilliant save. Like he's hardly any back left. He sprints onto it. He smashes it low. Served a goal, to be honest. A really good strike. And I think even if how bad we are, if we score in the 82nd minute to make it 3-2.
Pressure's on. Yeah.
Pressure's on. You've got them rocking and you don't know what can happen. But I don't think we deserved to win the cup final yesterday. It would have been a bit of a robbery if we had, despite the fact we've got more of the ball and better players. But the players have got to really take a lot of accountability. That's now 2 cup finals in a row they've failed to front up. Is it complacency? Is it they're past the sell by date? Is it just they're knackered, they're done because they're playing 2-3 games a week and there's no backup? I'll say it. I've said it multiple times in this show this season. You've got the captain or former under-23 captain of Portugal sitting on the bench, comes on against Roma, does a bit of a job second half, albeit that they're in second gear by that point. And again, can't get minutes. We've got midfielders like Engels getting clattered, clearly dead on his feet. And you've got James Forrest coming on to play 10 instead of Paulo Bernardo. Like the last point I want to make broadly is the end, as good as that 20-minute spell was when everything was going well, the end of matches are really worrying me. Yeah, no, you've got to kind of go for it. But we finished yesterday with McCowan as a left wing back, Yang as a right wing back, and James Forrest playing as an inside left 10 with 1 to 2 at the back by that point. We've given up 3. They were all over the shop. Kobe Donovan was an inside right midfielder, I think, by this point. It was an absolute shambles. And even in the chaos, you think, well, chaos maybe creates opportunity. They created absolutely zip. Nothing late in the game. Oh, there was one deflected shot by Kenny that Jamal George did quite well to turn over, but it would have been a bit lucky deflection if it got in. I just think it looks disjointed enough when it's set near the beginning. By the time we get behind and we're chasing things, that lack of that's about 4 or 5 players not playing in the right position. Like that doesn't make any sense. I don't care if you're chasing the game or not. Throwing random players into random positions that aren't their strong suit. I've got absolutely no idea how that's supposed to work. I just don't.
I think there's legitimate criticism for the second goal with Kasper Schmeichel as well. He's come for something there. If you're coming for it, you'd already come for it. You'd already get a fist on it, a palm on it, you'd already something on it. But to come out and flap at it and not get anything on it, I agree. If he's on his line there, he would save that chance. But yeah, he's flying under the radar for a bit of criticism as well, because at the moment you don't want to take leaders out of that team because we need every leader we can get, but you also need your leaders to stand up. And I felt that, he didn't make a great account of himself. He tends to shout at the linesman and then try and rattle out those stupid clearances where he slipped on one and nearly thought he nearly done his hamstring, sort of try to kick the ball out.
And he nearly got the ball nicked off him, but it was clearly a foul. I've heard people say, "Oh, he run his luck. He rode his luck." But yeah, he clearly got stepped on his standing foot just as about, or his kicking foot just as about to kick it. So, but yeah, his distribution was poor. His decision making wasn't great. He's cut a really frustrated figure generally over these 3 matches, as have a lot of the players. Like McGregor he was dragged back and forth in the first half, back and forth to the sidelines. No tactics board this time, but messages being relayed. And then other players being waved at. Like, to be fair, I think in the first half, Nancy had legitimate concerns about how rushed and wasteful we were. Like, there was just no composure on the ball. And he said that in his post-match comments. We needed to be a bit more composed, and yes, there's urgency and you want intensity, but you can do that in a calculated way. And I don't think we were getting that. But I think it's too much too soon. I think the players haven't bought in. Even if you lose 1 or 2 of these big players, it's a long way back. And as I said earlier, if you don't win matches, you're definitely not going to breed confidence. I think the comparisons with Ange, I think, is everyone hoping that we can turn it around in the same way that did. But I think Ange's identity was 100% clear and his message was 100% clear from the outset. And I think the players bought in pretty early with his strength of character, his personality. And obviously we had some big wins early on, even though we dropped some points, we had some big wins. And then obviously the confidence sort of rolled and we got from there. But I just don't see where this first win's coming from. And I don't think we've got the personnel to play it. And we certainly, with Viniacho out, I don't think we've got the striker to play it. So Wilfried Nancy's got a lot of soul searching to do. And I like, it sounds ludicrous, 8-9 days in, 3 games. But if he loses 4 in a row or 5 in a row, like, when do you pull the pin? I think it's, I'm not a guy that says you should rush this, but equally, and I think people know I err on the side of positivity, pragmatism. More generally, I'm not rash, not knee jerk. But like, I guess the issue is, do you trust him with a ton of money in January? Like, that's a coin
but then
toss.
do you trust Paul Tisdale with a load of money in January? Like, he's
no,
the one that signed Balakwisha and Tanecki, and they're not exactly, they've done it. Well, Tanecki's obviously done a wee bit, but like, Balakwisha's done absolutely nothing. And to turn around and say that we've been keeping tabs on him for nearly 2 seasons, in what?
Yeah.
In what capacity?
Well, that's the thing. And even if you thought even if those guys had turned out to be decent, then why were they signed after we were knocked out of the Champions League? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, and that, well, that's, I thought that was ridiculous based on Ange's qualities, but clearly sometimes it just doesn't work. And, do you pull the pin early, or do you let it drag on? Like, look at the COVID season. Lennon should have been tipped out Ferencvaros. He should have been gone after that, if not before. And it was allowed to limp on until the league had gone and there was no opportunity of anything. So I think it's a really difficult one. I think he will be given, in theory, I think he'll be given the window. If he hasn't won a game before then, though.
Well,
Paul, there's 5 games coming up.
5 losses in a row. 5 losses in a row. The English Premier League managers have been tipped out having 5 losses in a row. 5 losses is like danger sign. That's you hit the red at 5 losses in a row. And when was the last time Celtic lost 5 games in a row? You'd be going back to Tony Mowbray or something like that, surely.
Even then, I doubt it. Even I'd be very surprised. Like, there'll be a draw in there or a win against some fodder. Like, it's pretty bad. He needs a result rapidly.
But this is the thing. There's nothing in his press conference that says to me that he's going to sacrifice his principles to get a result. And Charlie Mulgrew was right. You say if you want the players to buy in, you've got to get a result any way you can, just to get a wee bit of buy-in. And it's like, actually, this guy maybe knows what he's talking about, and then the players can sort of start to believe in it and grow in confidence and all the rest of it. But at the moment, he's just like, we're doing it my way, and he's probably got maybe 2 or 3 players who are even capable of doing it. Like Kieran Tierney and Callum McGregor are capable of doing it. They're technically probably our 2 best players on the park. But unfortunately, we don't have a team of Tierneys and McGregors. We've got Tanecki's and Liam Stales's and Anthony Ralston's and, players that
let's call it
maybe play one position well.
We've got a worse squad in a decade. We've possibly got one of the worst squads in 20 years. Now, that's the squad as it is now. Obviously, injury torn. There's a lot of great players out, injured, that would make a difference to this team. But as it currently stands, with the players available, this is as bad as I've seen in probably as bad as Tony Mowbray's era. The COVID season's bad, but, some ridiculous things going on then. But those are the 2 benchmarks, and I think this is the propensity for this to be worse, especially with fans in the ground and that all-out war with the board. Yeah, like, he couldn't have a tougher job on his hands, but he hasn't made it easy for himself. This is the thing. Like, the sympathy for me begins and ends at the circumstances that he's found himself in, but he's been very well paid, and he's got an opportunity at a massive club in Europe. And I think he's treating it a bit too much like a vanity project for his sophisticated style, rather than
it's Devin Russell Martin vibes. It's Devin the whole, like, it's my way or the highway, and it's like, sorry, but you can't do that. Like, that's how Russell Martin felt. He had a bunch of players at Rangers that he couldn't get into his formation and his team, but he wouldn't bend, he wouldn't break, he just carry on doing what he was doing. And 3 games in, like I said, I mean, I'm happy to stand corrected. I'm happy on Wednesday night that he changes it up a bit. We get a result, and you can see, all right, maybe he's learned his lesson, and a little bit of pragmatism's come into it. But if he's going to insist on keep doing what he's doing time and time again with the players that we've currently got, with the squad as threadbare as it is, he's not going to see the transfer window, Paul. I don't wish ill on people. I want the guy to succeed. I want to believe the best in people and trust the people who run our club to do the right thing and appoint a good manager. And I'm all for giving people chances, and not to mention the guy's a person. He's a person of color, and from a different background. Obviously, all the comparisons to Paul Le Guen are now coming up because he was French and he came from a far better pedigree than Wilfred Nancy, and it didn't work out for him. So sometimes it just doesn't work out. You can have the best of intentions, and I think it was Larson. He made the comment. I don't know if I've saved it or not. Bear with me. But basically, what he said is he's just he said it at the wrong time. He's one of these guys that
right manager, wrong time potentially.
Would have been right, but just not right time.
Kaiser's made a good point there as well. Like, the squad does need this, and again, this is all on the sort of custodians of the club. This is a squad absolutely end of the road, and it's past the end of the road. The end of the road was the summer. You've got players that have been there that don't want to be there anymore. You've got guys like Mirren wanted to go, Yang wanted to go, Hatate's wanted to go for a while. You've got other players who their bodies are letting them down. They've had repeated injuries. You've got players who should only ever be backups, Scales, Ralston, numerous others. You've got heavy investment in poor players. 5 million Balikwisha, ridiculous. 5 million on Tenecti, ridiculous. And others. We sat on tens of millions of pounds for months and then spunked a bunch of money on guys that weren't good enough as a panic at the end. Everything that could be wrong with this club is it would run like local bowling club. You got the same board in place for nearly 20 years. We're not progressive from that side. We don't have a proper football department. Analytics look basic. There's nobody looking at set pieces. The manager's throwing in a shambolic timing. The players a lot of the players don't look like either they want to be there or are good enough to be there. It's a perfect storm. And if it was any other club, you would probably just write off this season and go, we'll do our best with a window in January. We'll go heavy on the window in the summer. And next season, the new manager can have a good run up and see how we go next season. But it's Celtic that you don't get that time. You just don't get that time. Because if we don't win the league this year, Europe looks terrible, if at all. The way that the coefficients go, we might be no European football if we don't win the league. I think if we come second, we maybe get a crack at conference. That's how bad that is. Hearts are solid. They'll drop points, of course they will, but they're well organised. They're using modern tactics and all the rest of it. Rangers can't be as bad as they have been. They will get a bit better. They'll probably throw more money at the problem in January. And there's some other decent teams coming up behind. Like if we go in a downward spiral, this of all seasons is a season where we might end up not second, but we could be third or fourth. And that is doomsday scenario stuff. And it's only 3 games, and only one of them was in the league. But if we continue playing like this with the players that we've got available, we'll lose other games in the league. We'll drop other points in the league. We need to turn it around pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like I said, at the moment, you think we're rock bottom, but I have some feeling we've got further to go. I think this is just the beginning, to be honest. Like the mood music's there. The warning signs are creeping in, but if you've got a manager who the fans don't want, they've turned their back on him. You've got a situation where the players aren't buying in, so they're not performing. And like, there's a comment here, and we've probably actually covered it, to be honest. But Typhon Flustery, he is saying here, who is to actually blame here? And we've agreed, Paul, that there's plenty of blame to go around, right? But you've got the players potentially already white-anting the manager and not buying into his tactics and what he wants and not liking training. But you have to say the players haven't exactly set the heather alight this season by performances for any manager. Take the Feyenoord performance out of the equation. Can you think of another real sterling Celtic performance this season, or even this calendar year? Like, obviously go back to Bayern Munich. That's obviously we were very close there, but ultimately still fell short. But like since then, it's just been a downward trajectory. The Aberdeen Cup final, which admittedly I was on a plane to Las Vegas and didn't actually see it, which is probably a good thing.
It was.
But like the performance has been few and far between, and now they're turning on the new manager. So you've got to say, well, where do you get the right to do that? We're paying your wages. Like, surely you should be out there busting your hump. Because, like, say you come into a new organization, Paul, surely you'd be trying to do everything you possibly could to try and understand the systems that are in place so that you could perform to the best of your ability. But if toys are already out the pram there, then you've got to say, well, are the players being a bit petulant? Like, why are they not performing? Perform for Martin, won't perform for Wilfred. We've covered Wilfred in plenty of detail, so he's coming in with his own ideas.
The players have 100% got to carry the can as well. Like, at the end of the day, they might not have played some of these positions before, but football's still a relatively simple game, right? You keep the ball, give it to your mates, try and poke it in the net at the other end, and stop them going in at your end. Like, I'm being flippant, but you can fancy and philosophize all you like about football, but these guys are professionals paid a lot of money. Whether they like it or not, the new guy is the boss, and they got to follow his instructions. But unfortunately, dressing rooms can get rid of managers pretty easily. Ultimately, if enough of them decide they're not gonna, and
it's the right players. If it's the right players, yes. So like your Tierneys and your McGregors, if they're the ones who say this isn't working, then they're the ones that the club hierarchy may listen to. But I just can't see them emptying him too soon, because then it's an admission that the board's stuffed up. And like I say, unless they sack Tisdale at the same time and say, well, it's his fault, it's not the board's fault. We trusted that guy. He got it wrong. He's out the door as well. Then we're looking for two new. We're looking for a coach and a head of football or whatever position he's actually in. We don't actually know what position he's in because he's not actually listed on the club website. But anyway, that's a point of digression for probably another time in another podcast. So I kind of feel that we've said as much as we can tonight, I think, to be honest.
Too much, probably.
Dare I say, do we want to do a man of the match?
No, we don't. I certainly don't. No.
Well, I will say that my wee cousin Ryan Mullen, he was on the bench. He's a reserve goalkeeper for St Mirren, so he picked up a League Cup medal last night. So he was chuffed. But yeah, he's not. I don't know he's going to get in front of Shamal George anytime soon. He's having an absolute stormer. But yeah,
not in that
good for him, and ex Celtic and Celtic through and through. So must have been a bit hard for him sitting there last night. But he was pretty chuffed to pick up his medal. So he's part of that team. And we'll go down in St Mirren folklore. So yeah, just these things don't come around all that often. And I don't know if we've actually said it, but we should say it. Well played, St Mirren. Like they played us off the park at times, and they had a game plan. They had the conviction. They knew what they were doing, and they took their chances. And yeah, I mean, fair cry. And I have gone on the record before and saying that Stephen Robinson's the best manager in Scotland outside of, well. I was trying to say Celtic, but maybe not. But yeah, he flies under the radar a wee bit, I think. But anyway, yes. Let's leave that one there, Paul.
Stephen from the Monday show had some rather unpleasant things to say about him, so we should probably maybe balance the ledger slightly on that.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. He has a set of tactics. He's been very close to beating us on 3 separate occasions prior to this, and he finally got it right. Obviously got us not a great day, but you can't take it away from someone. They played well, so fair's fair. Paul, have you got any recommendations for us this week?
Yeah, real quick one because we're way over time. Recent album from a band I sort of stumbled upon a few years ago, Scottish Likes to keep in touch with my Scottish music, even from way down here in Australia. A band called Admiral Fallow. The album is called First of the Birds. I'm trying to work out whether this is their 4th or 5th album, depends. Yeah. But anyway, they've been around for a few years, broke through in the 2010s, and still producing albums. But yeah, Admiral Fallow, First of the Birds. If you're into bands like Frightened Rabbit and that kind of folk indie rock thing, you probably like these guys. So yeah, check them out.
Season 2 of Fallout, based on the video game. It's on Amazon Prime and stars, what's her name? Walter Goggins plays the ghoul. He's sort of popping up and everything, and it's Ella Purnell. She plays Lucy, the lead character. Pretty good, and pretty good adaptation. So I'll be checking that out this week. And amongst plenty of Big Bash, plenty of cricket going on in Australia at the moment. There's a test match coming up. I'm getting my satisfaction of Australia beating England. That's about the only satisfaction I'm getting at the moment, sporting wise. But you take it where you can get it. There was a comment here, 420 somewhere. He's one of our regular contributors in the chat. He says, "Hold in tight, folks. I kind of feel it's going to get worse before it gets better. So we'll hang in together, and we'll be back next week as we cover the Aberdeen game. So same time next week." Paul, you're in for an op this week. Is that right?
Yeah, knee surgery on Wednesday. So yeah, all being well, I'll be here next Monday. Depends how I need to rest up.
If not, I'll need to come out with a Wilfred Nancy super sub.
I might have to elevate it and sort of do the show kind of at a weird angle. We'll see. I aim to be here, but we'll have to play it by ear depending on recovery.
All right, fair enough.
I won't be here on Thursday for people who watch the Thursday show because that's a bit too close to the surgery. So yeah, hopefully back next Monday.
All the best, lads. All the best, Paul, for your surgery. Hope it all goes well, mate. Thank you everyone in the comments. It's been very lively. Appreciate everyone's contributions. And we will see you next week. All that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.